Tonight, the CDC's strongest guidance yet on masks as the coronavirus hits new record highs. The CDC's new call for universal mask wearing indoors as the U.S. for the second day in a row shatters records for deaths, new cases, and hospitalizations. Dr. Fauci ahead of Christmas warning we haven't yet seen the post-Thanksgiving surge. And millions in California headed for a new lockdown. Hospitals gearing up for the vaccine. We take you inside to see the drills they're conducting ahead of the very first doses. Joe Biden's new warning saying without new COVID relief, we're in for a bleak future, and what he just said about the Trump administration's vaccine strategy. President Trump set to headline the first rally since his election loss ahead of the runoffs to decide control of the Senate as he wages a GOP civil war in Georgia. Firefighters injured as powerful winds fuel an explosive wildfire as we're tracking the first potential major nor'easter of the season. The historic step today toward ending the federal ban on marijuana and deck the halls 2020 style.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. The CDC is expanding its mask-wearing recommendations to virtually everywhere outside the home tonight in an urgent effort to slow the skyrocketing number of COVID infections, hospitalizations, and deaths, all eclipsing ghastly records on a daily basis. Right now, health officials are focused on counting the days since Thanksgiving travel, timing what they expect to be a new wave of illness that could push hospitals over the edge. Miguel Almaguer has late details.
Tonight, millions in the San Francisco Bay Area ordered back into lockdown, told to stay home except for critical services and outdoor recreation. New restrictions as the country plunges deeper into crisis. The U.S. once again setting new single-day records for the number of Americans who lost their lives, became infected, and are hospitalized with COVID.
The numbers in and of themselves are alarming. And then you realize that it is likely we'll see more of a surge as we get 2 to 3 weeks past the Thanksgiving holiday. And the thing that concerns me is that it butts right on the Christmas holiday as people start to travel and shop and congregate.
Illinois, Texas, and Pennsylvania now reporting the 3 highest death tolls this week. President-elect Biden says he'll ask the public to wear a mask for 100 days to slow the spread. But Dr. Fauci warns masks may be needed longer.
Now, it might be that after that we still are going to need it, but he just wants it, everybody, for a commitment for 100 days.
In New Jersey, the governor called Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz a putz and a fool for ignoring social distancing guidelines and mask mandates at a recent fundraiser.
Back in California, L.A. County alone reported more cases in a single day this week than 44 states. Hospitals are filling fast.
With COVID claiming 278,000 lives in the U.S., long-term care facilities account for 40% of deaths. At this New Hampshire home, Martin Oppenheimer is among at least 15 residents to lose his life.
I was married to him for 66 and a half years. I wasn't there at the end. I couldn't hold him. I couldn't say goodbye.
Tonight, for far too many families, the holidays will be filled with heartbreak. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
I'm Megan Fitzgerald in Arizona for a first look at how one major medical center is preparing to administer the vaccine.
Our hope is that this is the beginning of the end of COVID.
Dr. Tiffany Pankow is one of Honor Health's 15,000 medical workers in the first round of distribution.
It's a chance for us to be able to vaccinate and protect first of all, our healthcare workers and our first responders.
Dozens of volunteers in Phoenix today taking part in a practice drill in this parking lot.
This is where it starts. Cars will start here. They'll advance on to registration, where volunteers will confirm their identity and make sure that they have an appointment.
Your date of birth, please.
This is where the vaccinations will take place. The cars will pull up, their windows will go down, and they'll get a shot in the arm, just like they would at their doctor's office.
You ready? It's just going to be a little pinch.
Engineers working on traffic patterns and timing down to the second. Officials here say they're prepared to administer 1,000 doses a day as soon as the vaccine is approved, which could be as early as mid-December.
After being vaccinated, they'll pull up here and be observed for 15 minutes to make sure they don't have any side effects.
If they have a reaction, they're told to honk their horns. Teams today simulating how they'd respond to those types of medical emergencies.
We're just going to stand here and talk to you and kind of continue to keep an eye on you if you don't mind.
Getting one step closer to changing the course of the virus. Megan Fitzgerald, NBC News, Phoenix.
All right, let's talk about your financial health now. President-elect Biden calling the future very bleak and warning of a very dark winter if Congress doesn't pass more pandemic relief for tens of millions of Americans. And what he just said about the Trump administration's vaccine strategy. Here's NBC's Jeff Bennett.
Tonight, President-elect Joe Biden urging Congress to quickly pass hundreds of billions of dollars in pandemic relief before what he calls a very dark winter.
If we don't act now, the future will be very bleak. Americans need help, and they need it now.
It comes with a new jobs report showing the economic recovery stalling, with a pandemic surging. 245,000 jobs were added last month, down from 610,000 in October. The unemployment rate dipping to 6.7%. Overall, the economy's now recovered 12 million of the 22 million jobs lost in the initial economic shutdown. And as the Biden transition team plots its COVID vaccine distribution strategy, the president-elect says there are gaps in the Trump administration's approach.
There is no detailed plan, that we've seen anyway, as to how you get the vaccine out of a container into an injection syringe into somebody's arm. And it's going to be very difficult for that to be done, and it's a very expensive proposition.
And with blacks and Latinos dying from COVID at disproportionately higher rates, Biden stressed distributing vaccines equitably. Lester?
All right, Jeff Bennett, thank you. Let's turn now to those critical races we've been following in Georgia. Control of the U.S. Senate hinging on what happens in 2 runoff elections there next month. President Trump holding a rally there tomorrow. Other heavy hitters there today. Hallie Jackson has more.
Star power lighting up dueling rallies in Georgia today. Vice President Mike Pence in person.
Republican Senate majority could be the last line of defense.
Former President Barack Obama online.
And this is not just about Georgia. This is about America.
That's because the close Senate runoffs pit Republican incumbents David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler against Democrats Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. If either Republican wins, the GOP keeps its Senate majority. If both Democrats do, it's that party that gains control.
I'm hoping that everybody understands the urgency.
Tomorrow, President Trump visits the state, which Joe Biden flipped in November, with questions about whether the president's false claims of election fraud could depress turnout. One controversial attorney, a Trump supporter, now suggesting conservatives boycott.
Why would you go back and vote in another rigged election, for God's sakes?
Perdue pushing back.
This is illogical for any Republican to think that, oh, I'm just going to sit down and not vote.
NBC's Blaine Alexander with a top Georgia Republican.
Is the president's trip to Georgia going to be helpful or hurtful for Republicans?
At this point, who the heck knows?
The president's rally will be in a more rural part of the state where the GOP needs to boost turnout to win. Lester?
Hallie Jackson, thanks. In Southern California, millions are under red flag warnings tonight. A forecast for more high winds, keeping the fire danger high as firefighters try to contain a blaze that forced tens of thousands to evacuate. Our Steve Patterson is there.
Blasted by surging winds, gusts up to 75 miles an hour, and a landscape of bone-dry fuel, Southern California's bonfire chewed through thousands of acres, forcing residents to race columns of flames, raining down a hail of embers.
I saw these flames come out from behind a ridge, and they must have been like 50, 100 feet tall.
The fire started at a home, then spread, forcing more than 25,000 to evacuate, injuring 2 firefighters.
I'm alive.
Jean Page barely escaped as the flames ripped into her yard, nearly torching her hillside home.
I was terrified. I cried all last night. I was, because you're never going to get back what you put into it.
As the fire spread, wind grounded critical air support. It's the latest in a brutal year of historic California wildfires. More than 4 million acres scorched so far.
We have Santa Ana conditions and high wind conditions that are promoting really big, fast-spreading fire events.
Tonight, nearly 11 million under red flag warnings, with the threat expected into the weekend. The latest leg of a now year-round fire season, keeping residents locked in unending worry. Steve Patterson, NBC News, Orange County, California.
On the other side of the country, in the Northeast, millions are bracing for a powerful nor'easter tonight and tomorrow. Strong winds and heavy rain expected on the coast, up to 10 inches of snow in New England, with tree damage and power outages expected. New York and Massachusetts are deploying emergency assets and issuing travel warnings. A historic development today as the country grows more accepting of marijuana. The House voting to decriminalize pot and clear people convicted of marijuana offenses. Let's get more on this from Tom Costello.
While 1 in 3 Americans now lives in a state with legalized marijuana, pot is still illegal under federal law. Today, the Democrat-controlled House voted to decriminalize it.
The bill is passed.
And expunge criminal records for marijuana offenses. With Arizona, New Jersey, Montana, and South Dakota voting to legalize marijuana, 15 states plus D.C. now allow recreational pot. 34 more states allow it for medical use. Yet 40,000 Americans are still in prison on marijuana offenses. The ACLU says black Americans are nearly 4 times more likely to be arrested. Evelyn LaChapelle spent 5 years behind bars, separated from her 4-year-old daughter.
I was certainly a victim of an unjust system, a system that has systematically attacked black and brown people specifically for cannabis.
Still, Senate Majority Leader McConnell says the House bill won't even get a vote in the Senate.
The House of Representatives is spending this week on pressing issues like marijuana.
Despite growing acceptance, still plenty of official opposition. Tom Costello, NBC News, Washington.
As schools try to stay open during the pandemic, testing is playing an increasingly important role, including a test that is easy to take right in school. NBC's Willem Marks has more on this.
Tonight, the push to keep kids in classrooms could be getting a big boost, with COVID saliva tests now available in a growing number of schools.
We need to wash our hands first.
Each week, as part of a government trial, thousands of kids in Britain fill small plastic tubes in seconds, with reliable lab results returned hours later.
Vial.
And American students are trying it too. Principal Molly King introduced her Connecticut school to the idea in September.
We wanted to reassure our community that we were doing everything that we could to mitigate risk.
Nearby Yale scientists tell us saliva tests are accurate and easy.
When you really look at the lower limit of detection, saliva testing is definitely right up there with the swab-based methods.
While experts say schools are not a major transmission point for COVID, more testing is seen as critical. So labs in 25 states are now working to increase saliva capacity and reduce costs.
Aggressive routine testing is the only way that we will be able to reopen this country safely.
And if an entire classroom is tested at once, the costs drop significantly, with the weekly individual price tag then as low as $15. Lester?
All right, Willem Marks tonight. Thank you. I want to turn now to our series, America Under Pressure. Tonight we speak to healthcare workers on the front lines of this crisis. They are heroic, but their work and the prospect of tougher days ahead is taking a toll. Here's Stephanie Gosk.
Get the best chance possible to recover.
For months, they have fought to keep the country healthy. Perhaps now it's time the country fights for them.
Speaking for all of us, we're tired. But we get up and we still do this every day.
In a study released this week, half of the medical professionals surveyed suffered some form of emotional distress. 40% said it was serious.
When I go home, I don't get to hug my kids. I don't run to the door anymore because we don't give hugs when I get home. They know that the first thing I do is I shower. And then I get to spend half an hour with them and I come back and I do it again.
Doctors and nurses struggling with staff shortages and fears of getting the virus, on top of far more suffering and death.
We're 9 months into this pandemic. They're frustrated. They're starting to get angry.
And the most difficult months of the pandemic lie ahead.
When our caregivers are burned out, they really can't be their true self or their best self when they come to work.
When that alarm goes off and you have to get out of bed in the morning, what runs through your head?
I read it.
Orlando Gardner is an ICU physician and a father. He says he doesn't have time to worry about his own well-being.
If I don't continue to swim, I'll just drown in the ocean, and I have too many people depending on me. If I stop, I feel like I'm going to take them out. down all with me.
Garner had COVID himself, and then his wife and small children got the virus. They are all okay, but he hasn't recovered from the fear.
I have these dreams, where my children have died, and it's, I really don't know what happened, or all I know is that they died, and I feel this immense grief and guilt when I wake up.
The dreams linger. The fatigue is endless. And every day, new patients keep coming through the doors. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News, New York.
Up next, how to shop safely for your Christmas tree 2020 style. This holiday season, with millions now more dependent than ever on delivery, there is a growing trend picking out your Christmas tree without ever leaving your home. Jolene Kent with the price you pay.
Which one do you like? Whether you're looking for a Charlie Brown Christmas tree,
Maybe it just needs a little love.
or something a bit more spectacular,
2, 1.
this pandemic has more of us relying on delivery to bring the magic of Christmas home.
Live tree sales are booming. Some farmers already sold out, while others are selling more trees than ever before, as so many of us stay home for the holidays amid the pandemic. Feels like you're delivering a piece of magic.
Kids remember this for their whole life, and so we have to allow for these joyful moments, even in a pandemic.
Santa and Sons has been selling trees in Los Angeles for 35 years.
We're roughly tripled what we were last year.
For the first time, customers can even pick out their tree virtually over FaceTime or Zoom. When it's delivered, workers take their temperatures and sanitize before entering a customer's home.
It's our Christmas tree.
Along with shopping local, larger retailers like Lowe's, Walmart, and Home Depot are all offering free tree delivery this season.
When the Christmas tree comes into the house, it's a special moment. It says the holiday is here.
Keeping spirits bright in a whole new way. Jolene Kent, NBC News, Los Angeles.
I want to tell you now about a first for Queen Elizabeth, the 94-year-old monarch holding her very first virtual audience with visitors at Buckingham Palace while she's 20 miles away in Windsor Castle. Due to the pandemic, the Queen hasn't been at the palace since March. Soon we'll be able to witness something that hasn't happened since the Middle Ages. On December 21st, Jupiter and Saturn will align to create what's known as the Christmas star, what some astronomers say may have been the Star of Bethlehem. The last time it happened was nearly 800 years ago. Up next here tonight, I'll have some final thoughts. Finally, some thoughts on a week of promise and despair. COVID vaccines. It could finally spell the start of the end, but also the knowledge of those for whom vaccines will come too late. Even before the first shot has been administered, Americans are being inoculated against hopelessness. 2 vaccines now up for approval and more to come are beacons of light in these darkest of days. These tiny vials and the vaccines they hold, if proven safe and effective, provide both a way out from the pandemic and all the incentive we should need to hang in there just a little longer and double down on our resolve to not infect others. We've lost way too many already due to obstinance and denial. Now that we're this close and literally losing thousands of lives a day, are we really going to still fight about it? As we reach this critical crossroads of a dark winter and exploding hospitalizations and a vaccine almost in our grasp, do we really need government orders to tell us to mask up, to not throw dinner parties, to do the right thing? Yes, the virus is raging like it never has, but we still have power to control it. Our country has rolled up its sleeves in hard times before and prevailed. We can do this for all of our sakes. That's Nightly News. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. More than ever, please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.